This episode of the Neurodivergent Experience is brought to you by RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900. To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Hello and welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. I'm your host, Jordan James, a neurodivergent specialist and photographer. And I'm joined by my co-host, very best friend and fellow advocate, Simon Scott.
Hello, welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. In this episode, we are answering your questions.
Woo!
Well. How are you, my friend? How's it going? You okay?
Yeah, no, well, it's always fun when we do this because we just had a chat. So you know how I am.
Yes, I know exactly how you are.
To be fair, I was super tired, really fatigued, literally to the point where I'm like, my brain is not working. It's just not working properly.
Yeah.
I was pretty ill. I had a flu as well, and that didn't help. So I was kind of like stuck in this loop of I couldn't really sleep because when I'm coughing and can't breathe properly, I tend to wake up because my sleep pattern is very, very delicate. And then because I wasn't getting enough sleep, I wasn't getting better.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, well, I'm just stuck now. But it's finally gone. It's finally gone, and I feel better, and I was actually able to properly sleep, and I feel refreshed. But just now, really depressed because I actually started watching the news again, which I haven't done for months.
That'll
and I was
do
like,
it.
oh my God, the world is burning, and there's nothing I or anyone else can do about it. So I've decided that although it is stressing me out, like the whole American elections and the wars all over the world and the budget that just happened.
The dumpster fire that is outside your front door at all given times.
Literally just the world dumpster fire. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to do what I've been told by my therapist, and I'm just going to be a witness, because as soon as I start getting involved or I start having opinions about it, then I will hurt myself. So I'm just going to sit back, watch it all happen, and play the new Call of Duty. That is what I'm going to be doing.
Good advice, and I'm sure you guys listening as well, you know how much this is part of the ND experience, is just the overwhelming world out there. I mean, I'm trying not to read the news, but I work in news, so there's not exactly a way of escaping it. And it sucks. There's a lot of crap out there. I'm really feeling the weight of the world at the moment, especially like I'm, buying a house and then the budget comes out and I'm like laying in bed at night. And I used to be laying in bed at night going, I wonder if that person likes me. Oh, that thing that I said. And now I'm like, the interest rates. It's just like, well, it's just this like constant never ending just tsunami of random crap. They're just like, oh yeah, just deal with that today. I guess it's not what I want to do, but
it definitely makes me want to regress to being a child again. Just in my own head, I'm just going to play Mario Party Jamboree all day and just ignore the fact that the rest of the world actually is even a thing, and I'm just going to lose myself.
Yeah, I look back on all those times when I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to grow up," and I wish I had a time machine. I'm like, "Shut up, kid."
Yeah, yeah. You thought, mind you, I was just glad to get out of my childhood, but I want to relive it as an adult who has cash. And I'm like, well, I can buy all those sweeties.
We're talking like Home Alone 2 sort of cash.
Just hell like, yeah. I have gone full Home Alone. But yeah, I've also been getting out and doing a lot more photography, which has
that's great.
Made me super happy and reignited my love of the thing that I am probably best at. And Facebook is really, really bad at the moment. It's just really hard to reach anyone. Now they're asking for money every month if we want to go back to the way it used to be. And I'm like, I'm not paying you for my hard work.
Yeah, being held to ransom for what you used to have. And
I'm just like, I'm just going to put my pictures up, and if people like them, they like them, and if they don't, they don't. I care, but I don't care how many people. Like I don't care about likes, but I care that my pictures reach people and that my words reach people because I care about people. I'm not doing it for money. Facebook is, but I'm not. I'm doing it because I want to make a difference. Because I genuinely care. It's why we do this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
We're not making money. We just care. That's what it comes down to. And I'm kind of like upset a little bit because I can't reach as many people as I'd like to. But at the same time, I'm just focusing on the people I can reach. So that's kind of where my brain's at. I'm just in a lot better mindset of mental health, and I think Ashley has definitely helped me with that, and she's been helping you as well.
Yeah, I have had my first proper session with her about an hour and a half before this recording, and my word, guys, if you want your mentality changing or you want to get rid of some crap that's in your head, have a chat with her. She is incredible. I've really loved my session with her today. I mean, I left it in a flood of tears, but not a single one was through grief or upset or like a trauma response. It was just relief.
Yeah,
absolute relief.
I cried with relief as well. She just has that effect of just getting you to. She just guides you to you figuring out yourself.
Oh yeah. She's just a guide, and one of the things that has been a bit of a blessing with meeting her is I feel like I've met her at a really good point where I've had a variety of therapy and counselling in the past, and I now feel like having a therapist who's ND and works in this sort of like hypnotherapy. And because, like I said in the episode, when I heard hypnotherapy, I had that, get your clock out in my face. That's the first thing that I thought of, right?
That's hypnotizing, not hypnotherapy.
Yeah. And I've really enjoyed having my mindset changed on that, but also like, I don't know, man. I've never had a counseling session and kind of come away from it feeling lighter than when I went in. It's like I've had therapy sessions before, and afterwards I'm like, oh God, I've now got to live with what I was talking about for the next few hours. And crazy how you don't feel like that.
See, that literally highlights exactly what I'm talking about. It's like I will promote Ashley on Facebook, but I'm like, look, this is the therapist that literally helped me get out of a deep, dark hole that I've been in. The only therapist that's ever managed to do that out of countless therapists, some of which I've literally sworn at and slammed a door and just had meltdowns because they were so bad. And you've got this amazing woman who's not only helped me, but has massively helped my daughter, massively helped my wife, who I never thought my wife would listen to anybody about any of her issues. And Ashley managed to help all of us. And now Ashley's helping you as well. And it's like every time someone actually listens to my recommendation, when they actually go, yeah, okay, I'm going to go and talk to Ashley, they're just like, oh my God, that was the best recommendation.
Oh yeah, she's a gift.
It's the same with us with RTN. Yeah. We're just like, you don't understand how good RTN are. I get emails from people daily telling me thank you so much for putting me in the direction of RTN, because their assessment was just so neuroaffirming. It was just good to talk to people who actually care, actually know what they're talking about. And this is the thing, we won't ever say, oh, you should do this or you should do that if we don't actually believe it.
Oh, no. No, and I don't, it doesn't sit well with me that.
That just sounds like an Elon Musk thing, promoting people that are evil and terrible and will ruin the world. I personally just wish that I could just get every ND person like this. This is how I help. This is how I can help you. But our platform is it's there. I don't know if it's big or not. The fact is, it doesn't really matter how big it is because it's how many people it reaches. And I just like, so if you are listening, please share, please comment, please tell other people, not just about this podcast, but about the people that we have on this podcast.
Share our culture.
Yeah. Like just tell people about, like, last week's episode with Mandy, the autistic teacher. Some of the stuff she was saying was just so great. It was so helpful. And I'm like, more people need to hear this. Like, imagine a billion people heard that. It would just be so helpful. That's all we're doing. We just want to help people.
And selfishly help ourselves as well. Talking to you has been one of the most neuro-affirming but life-affirming things I've ever done. It's why I look forward to doing this podcast so much, because obviously, we're great friends, and I really do think our relationship comes across well in this. But selfishly, I'm getting help from this. I'm sure you get help from this as well. It's like, I spoke to Mandy the other week, and again, apologies for the lack of my crap microphone, but some of the things that she was saying, I actually went, I don't have an 100% overwhelming fear about sending my child to school anymore. It's 90%, but crikey, just getting that 10% to chip off the top to go, no, there are good teachers out there. There are neuro-affirming teachers out there, and there is change coming. It's just not happening as quick as it needs to or we would like. But an acknowledgement that there is people out there has not brought me like a lot of peace, but it's given me hope, at least a hint of something. Because before that, my mind was a bit like, oh crap, that's not good. Nothing's good.
Yeah, my hope is just, it goes up and down, up and down. Yeah. My emotions are just basically like a roller coaster. And it's like, one minute I'm like, oh, I don't even see the point. No one even cares. The world is on fire. And the next point I'm like, actually, if I could just help one person, like if there was just one person that I actually had a positive impact on, then that's a wonderful feeling. That's a wonderful, not it's a wonderful feeling for me. It's a wonderful feeling for everyone. Yeah, absolutely. It's just positive vibes, dude. It's just positive energy.
We need good vibes. You've summed it up. Energy. There's a lot of negative energy out there, and I've been spending a lot of time within our community at the moment. I'm working on other projects at the moment that are all autistic based, and I'm loving finding our culture and seeing and meeting other people and getting different perspectives. And I'm working with a couple of American people at the minute, and how they think about and do things differently, especially from like a neuro-affirming like, I just feel like my world's opening up in a good way and a bad way, because like you open the door and then suddenly it's just like the wave of like the news and ads, and every time like I make a reel for this podcast, it's like, do you want to pay for this? Do you want to promote it so that somebody other than your followers will see it? And it's like, just stop trying to take my money. I just want to help people. That's just all it is. I just feel like I don't want to have to ask for help to be able to help people. That's the tough thing, especially when I feel like I can help people.
Everything always seems to be money orientated. And what annoys me is that, like, there are people who genuinely struggle in life. I mean, I've been one of them. Like, we really struggled when I first had kids. We really, really struggled. Like, just about paid the mortgage, just about had enough money for fuel and food. Like, we really struggled. And there's people out there that just like, give me more money. You're already rich. It's like Amazon now putting adverts in and then going, give us £3 and we'll take those adverts out. I'm like, dude, you're already the richest human on the planet, And yet now you want more.
Because he wants to leave the planet. He wants to go to Mars or something, doesn't he?
I hope he crash lands on the moon like the whale in that South Park episode. If you haven't seen it, just go and research it. There's a whale just living, a whale, and I think Tom Cruise ends up there. I don't know why. Randomly.
Probably shooting the new Mission Impossible or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. He'll be up for it. He'll be like, I can go on the moon. I'm Tom Cruise. Why not? Why not?
It was just it's just greed and power and it just I don't know. I guess I just look at it and go, well, like what? Why can't like do you not care? And the answer is no, they don't. There's just a lot of horrible people who seem to have a lot of power.
Yes.
And I'm just glad I'm not part of it. I'm glad I'm not greedy. I never have been.
It's the best way to be, I find. So yeah, we've had a bit of an off the cuff little chat there. Why not? So we were a little bit like, we're both burnt out. We've both got a lot going on in life, and we've been umming and ahhing about what to do in today's episode. So we've decided that we're going to put all of the effort onto you guys. So we're going to answer some of the questions that you guys have sent in.
Yeah, it's just a couple. They're quite good.
Yeah,
just start.
We thought they were like, if this is a come dine with me sort of setting, we're like, oh, what's the topic of conversation today? What's the question of today? So we've got a couple of those that we're going to have a little bit of a chat around, because they're actually quite interesting. So thank you very much for sending those in, guys. And if you've got any other comments or any other messages, get on Spotify and go in the comments section. Or, just comment on any of our reels or TikToks on @the Neurodivergent Pod on socials. So, Jordan, fire away, mate.
Right, okay. So I didn't write down who sent these,
That's
by
fine.
the way. So
you know who you are.
From a listener. They ask, how do you talk to family members who have outdated ideas of what autism is? And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of them.
It's a tough conversation to have.
It's a lot.
So
how did you first talk to your parents about it? Because that would be interesting for me. Because, being northern and everything.
Oh, yes. So me and my father worked a 72-hour shift. No, 48 kilometres in snow. We had no shoes on. Anyway.
Did you eat gravel?
Oh, gravel. Oh, you'd be lucky to have gravel. So we had sand. No. Yeah, anyway. What was I saying? No, so how did the conversation start? So I approached my parents when we were on holiday. And we were sat around the table having lunch. And at this point, I was 5 years into counselling and mental health journey, and I'd been at the lowest point in my life. So I was really looking for answers. I can't really remember whether I'd taken like an online test or something like that. I can't remember what it was that triggered maybe you're autistic. But it was that long ago. I actually said Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how sort of the period of time that it was. And then I went off Asperger's because I was like, no, I'm not what I imagine Asperger's autism to be in my head. So I must have ADHD, because I feel like ADHD is like the entry level into understanding your ND at the moment.
It's dipping your toes in, isn't it?
Oh, I feel like people go, I'm ADHD, but I'm not autistic. I'm lucky. I've got ADHD because I'm not autistic. That's kind of
most of the time they are.
Yeah. So basically had a conversation with them, and I said, I think I've got ADHD. And they went, we don't think you've got ADHD. And I went, well, why not? And they went, well, you don't struggle with sitting still and you don't do this. And I was like, I do. I do. I was like, I'm in constant like mental agony trying to sit still. I mean, look at like if you're watching this video now, even my hands are moving. I'm sat still, but my hands are moving. And kind of had this back and forth with them, and they were like, oh, okay, we'll see. And this was 2019. I didn't get my assessment until 2022. So it kind of went away for a bit. We didn't talk about it for a while. And then like 2021 was when I was like, no, I genuinely think I've got ADHD. That's when I was starting to like look at reels, and that's when I was introduced to you as well. because I approached my uncle who'd just been diagnosed as ADHD, and he was going through the big period of hyper-focusing on it and learning about it. And I just had a conversation with him, and through him, I got put in touch with a mutual friend of ours, and then that's how I met you. So that's been kind of my journey. It was essentially, I started taking it seriously when I started talking to you. Because I was like, oh, I don't think I am. And you had the same reaction that you did now. You went, yeah, you are. I was like, all right, okay, explain why. And after 10 minutes, I was like, right, stop. Please just stop telling me why. I get it now. And then now I'm in the thing of having a partner who is coming to terms with that she's ND, but I know she's ND. I've got a mum who's really getting into the fact that she's ND, not had an assessment or anything like that yet. But she's now in the full throw of it, and she's starting to like look around at her mum and her sister and family members, and now starting to have the sort of like realizations that I was having a year or two ago. And then there's my dad there that's just like, yeah, maybe. And I'm like, hey, Dad, do you want to have a break of routine? He's like, absolutely effing not. I was like, all right, okay, yeah, cool. So kind of having these sorts of like, sprinkling breadcrumbs is kind of what I've had. But then I've had a conversation literally within the last couple of days with a family member, and the way that I kind of approached it with them was going, look, I went, what I thought autism and ADHD was could not be further from the truth. I was so wrong. And even now I have to remind myself how wrong I was, because the prejudice or the wrong information still filters in your head. And I essentially just said to him, I give him the Luke Bearden quote, if you think you are, just imagine you are and see how you feel. And poor bloke, I chewed his ear off for an hour, and I think I've given him an existential crisis. But that's kind of how I broached it. I was like, look, I was wrong. I've had my mentality changed, and at the time I was like, oh, I've got ADHD. Aren't I lucky? I'm not autistic. And then when I got my results, I was autistic ADHD, and now I've learned that I am predominantly autistic with ADHD.
Yes, we've delved into that one.
I'm kind of like, oh.
As soon as I met you in my house, I was like, you're definitely autistic ADHD.
I was like, what? No, I'm not. When you are, yeah, you are. I was like, oh,
yeah, well, you are.
So that's
in a really fun way.
Yeah, it was a fun way, but I can understand that. I imagine there are a lot of people that haven't done, the counselling or therapy or the mental health journey that you and I have definitely been on, would find that really, really hard to hear. Especially if you've got like a prejudice or a negative mentality around autism, and then you or I were to go up to somebody and be like, oh, by the way, how long have you known you were autistic? Like, I can imagine some people would just have a meltdown because they'd be like, I'm not that. How dare you insinuate there's anything wrong with me? And that's just a nightmare of navigating.
It's definitely something I came across a lot when I first got diagnosed. I literally, we went and saw my nan. Since then she's passed, but we all went up. The family went up, saw my nan, sitting in her little London flat, and I was just telling her, I've been diagnosed as autistic, and she was like, no, you were just very, very naughty.
Oh, you're a very naughty boy.
Yeah, literally a very naughty boy is exactly what she said. And I was like, I mean, I might have been, but also I'm autistic. But she was like, autistic meant bad behavior. Like that was what was in her head. She was like, yeah, you're not autistic. You were just very naughty. I was like, well, I might have just been both. And also, I don't feel like I was naughty. I feel like I was abused. But, we didn't talk about that because, it was her daughter that did it.
There's enough complications in this conversation as it is without adding
like I said, she's past and she was past her sell by date by that point. She was like well into her 90s. So to me, I was just like really pleasant about it. I wasn't going to have an argument with my little nan. She weighed like 4 stone. And I was just like, no, it's not that.
You can't fight with a wafer thin mint, mate.
I was like, no, it's fine. I was like, yeah, okay. But I laughed at it. Like, for me, it was like funny. It didn't anger me or annoy me. But it does worry me, because that is like a genuine consensus, like from a lot of elderly people, and a lot of people in general. They're like, oh, autism, that's the way your brain has gone wrong. That's the damage.
You've had a head injury. And
that's the bad.
Now your brain don't work. Yeah.
Like there, and there is a lot of rhetoric, and there's a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of misinformation. And essentially, if you really want to know what autism is, read my book, The Autistic Experience, because that's 85 different actually autistic people just telling them like their version of being autistic. Because autistic isn't a thing. Like there's not one thing. It is a type of brain that belongs to a human. So find out what that human is like, and then you'll find out what autism is for them. So it's not, oh, what is autism? It's what is autism for you? For some, it's hugely disabling. For others, they can utilize it as a superpower. I don't love that term, but that's the term that people understand, or an ability. See, for me, I had both. It's disabled me in many, many ways, most of them social disabilities, but it's hugely been advantageous for my photography, for my ability to learn, my ability to understand other neurodivergent people. And I would hate to not be autistic. I'd hate that. I love being autistic.
I love it. I can genuinely say now, hand on heart, I love being autistic. And I never used to. I used to hate it. But that's because I had the wrong information. I've said before, when I got my diagnosis, I thought my life was over. Well, that's it. Life over. You live indoors now, headphones on. You ain't going nowhere, boy.
A lot of people think like that.
And it does get better. But the best way, my advice would be, if you've got a family member or somebody that's not going to get it, I would say read Jordan's book, because it's 85 case studies. There's no... that's data, that's analytics. You can look at people and you can cross-reference and go, oh, I can see how that's relatable. I can see how there's this. And talk to people, listen to people. One of the reasons as to why we've done this podcast is to get a community voice out there and to try and help people. But genuinely, when we were like, right, other than ourselves, who we're making this for, we were like the 20-something-year-old who's unsure as to why they feel or think the way that they feel, the grandma that's granddaughter or grandson's really struggling at school, and the parent that's being diagnosed and is now looking at the children and going, oh, I've been getting this wrong and I can help them now. This is who this is for. It's to be relatable and to be affirming and to know that you're not alone. And the only way that we can do that is by having candid, honest conversations with each other. Being autistic, it's like being in a culture. There is a way of approaching people and speaking to each other, and we have all separate different needs, and there needs to be space for that. And you can have that in your family. I'm sure, Jordan, you'll be able to tell about that. But for me, it's like my parents are really coming around to the idea of embracing ND, especially my mum. My mum is going through it in the hyper-focus sense. She's doing a lot of reading and listening to stuff and really coming into her own with it, which is amazing to see, because of how much, I've seen her struggle with things and that I've always struggled with. That it's like I relate to my mum a lot because we are so similar. We've both tried to just make things work and not really understand where we're coming from. But there is nothing more incredible in my mind of seeing somebody like themselves, come into their own, not judge themselves as deeply. And I feel that in myself, and it's a wonderful feeling. But seeing it in your family members, and I'm sure you'll have seen it with your kids, Jordan, where like your daughter's amazing. Like how authentic she is to herself, I think is just so inspiring. And I do wonder how many people kind of just never really know themselves because they're afraid of upsetting their mum, by telling them they're autistic.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that needs to change more than anything. And that's kind of when I started my advocating journey, I guess, without even, this is not what I was trying to do. I just wanted to be positive because I just kept seeing so much negativity. And I was like, yeah, some of it is well founded. There is a lot of negative things about being different, just in general. I mean, it's a lot of negative things about being a different color. There's a lot of negative things about not speaking the same language as people. There's a lot of negative things about being too tall or too short or too big or too small. There's a lot of negative things about not fitting in general. So if you just go, oh, the autism is the problem, autism is not the problem. Autism is sometimes the problem, but the biggest problem is the way that autistic people are treated. Like that's the bigger problem. So it's like, yeah, you might have a kid that's non-speaking, that really struggles with like day-to-day tasks, even like brushing teeth, going to the toilet. A severely disabled, not a severely autistic. That's not the thing. A severely disabled autistic child. You go, well, that child really, really struggles. Yeah. But they're going to struggle a lot more if they don't get the help, if they're treated badly, if they're picked on, if they're ignored, if they're not understood. So no matter how disabled a person is, they will be more disabled if people don't help them, if people don't care, if people don't recognize that this is a human, this is a person behind that disability. That's not just, that's a disabled person. That's a person with a disability that we need to help. But the idea of just saying, oh, it's all bad it's lazy to me. Like, it's just lazy.
You know, when you talk about evolution and you go, when people go, oh, I don't believe in evolution, they're using the wrong word. They don't understand it.
Yeah, they just don't understand
and that's all this is. It's that they go, oh, autistic, you're disabled. I'm going, sometimes.
It depends. It
depends.
But autism isn't the disability.
They were like, oh, I don't believe that you struggle in that. Well, I didn't believe that you're a dickhead, yet here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Like, it's like, well, you do eye contact. No, I don't. I fake it. Like, you think I do.
Just like I'm faking wanting to speak to you.
Yeah. Oh, God, I have to do that a lot.
Right? That's right. But this is...
I have to fake a lot. But there's times that when I don't fake, that it actually causes problems because I'm just like, oh, well, this is just me. I'm just being me. And they're like, oh, that's not the you that I know. And I'm like, that's because you forced me into faking a personality to be around you because you were so judgmental every time I slightly let my mask slip. And so I had that issue with some of my family members when I was trying to explain to them about being autistic. But I have to admit, I have never, I mean, a few people were just like, oh, I don't think you're autistic. But to be honest, I never really had a lot of that. In fact, most of the time, people were like, oh, okay. I mean, that actually explains a lot. And because I had the knowledge, and this, by the way, this is my other whole thing.
It's important.
Because I had the knowledge of being able to represent myself and how I'm autistic and explain to people what makes me autistic and what I struggle with, but what I'm good at, and everything that I'm able to do, everything I've done throughout my page, throughout the book, throughout the documentary, throughout the podcast, everything I've done, I'm able to do every time I have a conversation with anybody. Like I can just explain it. And then that person goes, oh, actually, that just makes sense because of the way I'm able to explain it. But that's because, once again, I will say this word, I have privilege. I have a privilege of being able to do that because I don't have the alexithymia like a lot of autistic people. And alexithymia, I think, is hugely disabling in just the fact that you can't explain why you're disabled because you just can't get it out. The onus should not be on the disabled person to explain their disability. It should be on people to just be understanding, not to understand, but to be understanding of anybody who has any disability and see the person and then go, oh, okay, how can I help? And that's it. So I don't know how we got over here, but it's great. I like this. This is good. The fact is, if people have outdated ideas of autism, it's because for me, I find that there's a lot of people who have their own agendas. They want to sell their own books or they want to promote their own awful podcasts of how autism destroyed your family. That sort of rhetoric that is spread by a lot of alleged charities as well. Because at the end of the day, the more damaged your child is, the more money they make. So So at the end of the day, don't go to charities for your information. Don't go to people who are trying to sell you something for information. Go and get your information from actually autistic people who have experienced, which is, there's me going, oh, don't go to people who sell something, but go and get my book. you can listen to my book for free on Amazon. Like if you just get a free membership, like for a week or something, you can sign up to the Kindle free thing for a week or whatever, and you can get it for free, and then you just cancel it.
Yeah. I think you've kind of you've like made a little bit of a light bulb go off in my head, because my alexithymia has improved since I've started doing the research, since I've started talking to other autistic people and learning more about myself, because I feel like I've now got the tools to explain to somebody without people pleasing, without trying to fit in. It's like I'm not afraid of being me anymore. And a lot of that, I think, has come with speaking to people. And obviously, I have the privilege of having access to, people like Steve Silberman. And, I've managed to be able to be in the room with people like that. And that has obviously really helped me on my journey. But I have noticed personally, when talking to family members and stuff about autism, because I'm being more the authentic autistic self, and I am stimming and I am, not keeping eye contact and constantly having a fake smile on my face, I am actually educating people in my family more, because they go, oh, that's Simon. And, oh, that doesn't match my expectations. And I do that. And I do that. And then I'm able to explain in a coherent, in-depth way, in the way that I can, because I'm interested in it. So I genuinely feel like being involved in the community and the culture and speaking with and being friends with other ND people has actually helped with the disabling parts of my brain, because I feel like I can talk to people and I don't feel ridiculed. I don't feel like they're looking down my nose. And even when they do, I kind of go, well, I know I'm right. It's not even a case of being like, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, or whatever. It's no, I trust in myself, in the research I've done and the people I've spoken to. And I know what's right for me. And that is a very empowering feeling. It's light years away from where I was. Even when we first started doing this podcast, I felt like I didn't know who I was. Now I really have a strong sense of self. It's a blessing, really.
It's been one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is watching you grow. Like when we started, I was the Jedi, you were the Padawan. But, I don't feel like that's the case anymore. I don't feel, at the end of the day, I've learned things from you. And it's been a beautiful time that we've had together, especially bringing guests on as well and getting their input. And we've taught them things and they've taught us things. And it's just been a really great experience. Because I think we've also helped other people understand themselves better while we understand ourselves better. And see, that's the key, is that it is going to be really hard for us to, as a community, to get neurotypicals to understand or to be more compassionate or to make more room in their lives for learning
allow
and more
space
time
for us.
Allow space for us. Exactly. Perfect. But it starts with us doing it for ourselves, because that's the thing, is that so many of us, we will just go, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. And I keep hearing this from NDs, like, oh, I can't do that because of this. I mean, literally, my son was, I think, joking. I hope joking. When I was like, why? I mean, we're literally about to play Mario Party and he's just on his phone. And I'm like, why? Why are you on your phone? And he's like, oh, it's because I have ADHD. And I went, no. I went, no. He was like, oh, I'm just joking. I'm like, were you though?
But are you though?
Were you though?
What's the phrase with the joke never said without a hint of truth or something?
Yeah.
Or truth without jest or something?
Yeah, don't say I'm on my phone because of ADHD. Like, that might be the case, but don't use that as an excuse. Don't say ADHD is the reason I do this. ADHD is the reason I do that, for everything that you want it to be there for. At the end of the day, it might be. But if you continue using ADHD as like, oh, I do this thing that's negative.
Oh, the tism. Look at the tism.
Yeah. I'm doing this thing because it's negative. Your whole mindset will be, well, this is a negative thing, and therefore I do negative things because of this negative thing. And it's negative. And you've got to think positively, because at the end of the day, you can recognize your own disabilities, and you can recognize, and you can, hopefully be able to explain them, or other people can recognize the things you struggle with. But if you yourself don't recognize the positives about being different, the positives within your own neurotype, you are never going to be able to love yourself, or to be powerful enough within yourself to say, no, I'm not going to be treated like crap today. You're not going to do that thing to me. I'm going to stand up for myself, because like we've explained before, it always seems to be a fight. It shouldn't be. It should never be a fight. Disabled people shouldn't have to fight for any sort of rights, but we have to. Like, I don't know.
It's not negotiable at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the fact is, the only way you can fight is by having that passion within yourself to realize that you are not the problem. Anyone listening, you are not the problem. Autism is not the problem. ADHD is not the problem. These acronyms, these alleged conditions are not the problem. The problem is the way we view them, the way we perpetuate the idea that it's just negative, and it's not. There is so much positivity out there. You just have to find that balance. So that's my advice for anybody when you're talking about autism to somebody that genuinely doesn't get it. Say, look, you might be right in what you're saying about some autistic people are like that. But what you've got to remember is that's not just them. There is so much more. And if you just go autism, point at a child and just go, that's it, then you are doing that child or that person a massive injustice, because there is always more. There's always, you can learn more. And that's what I mean by look at us two. And I was literally the specialist when I first started this, and I'm still learning. I've learned so much more since starting this podcast, because we can always learn more.
Yeah. I could not agree more. And like I was saying earlier about, like, don't be afraid to take up space. There are moments where I have to remind myself that I can be disabled. It's not that I'm always disabled, but there are moments in situations and places and faces and people where I do feel and am disabled, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not all of me. It's just sometimes. And
we shouldn't be afraid to say that.
And do you know what I used to be? Oh God, I used to be so worried about how people would speak to me. I didn't want to be infanticized. Like, I just didn't want people to be like, oh, look at Simon with his tism.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm like, just get off me. And I've always felt like, everyone's playing the sport and I'm just on the bench waiting for somebody to get injured so that I can play. And that's a really lonely and horrible space to feel, and you aren't going to feel good about yourself. A lot of the issues that I have with how people talk about people with autism is they don't realize the damage that they're doing to autistic people by speaking for them on their behalf and just at them. It's like when you were talking to me about your injury, about how people treated you differently when they could see the fact that you occasionally needed a chair. Like, just how people treat you differently. And I look back on in my life and I've done it. I've been guilty of it. And I look back on it now and it makes me cringe. It really does. And I really hope that I've not ever done or said anything that's had a lasting impact on somebody just by being ignorant. Honestly, my life has improved so much in every aspect by embracing the fact that I am ND and loving it.
And I've seen that. I've seen you just come out of your shell and just be so much more confident and want to pass your knowledge. Every time you learn something, every time you gain that knowledge, you're just like, I want other people to know this. Like that, it's like the most selfless thing. It's like, oh, I've got this now, and I should be good because I can help myself. But your whole thing is the same as me. Is, oh, I understand myself better. Right now, I want other people to feel like that.
Yeah, I feel a sense of responsibility now.
Oh God, yeah, 100%. We absolutely have a responsibility.
It's like with great power comes great responsibility. I now feel like I've really come into my power, and now I have a responsibility to pass it along and to help people, because people have helped me. I mean, you have. You've been a great help in my life, and doing this podcast is passing it on, and I hope people, you that are listening to this, do pass it along. If there's something that you figured out, and you, like with my mum, my nana, she passed away last year, and I look at a lot of the things that she struggled with in her life, and I go, crap, if only she'd had 10 more years, I could have brought her a lot of peace by what I can talk about and how I can talk to her. And I feel like I've lost that now. And it is a very powerful responsibility, feeling like if you can help somebody, I can't not.
Yeah. I mean, there's a young man in the book that his story is told by his mother. His is the only story that is told by another person, because he is not with us anymore. And it's because of how he was treated. He was a wonderful, wonderful human. I had the pleasure of knowing that the things that I had done, the words that I had said, had helped him. And then I found out that he was gone, and he was 17. And it's not autism that causes that. That it's how autistic people are treated. And his story is not, it's not a freak occurrence. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. We are literally, and it's not just autistic people, it's not just ADHD people, it's just disabled people are treated so badly for being different. It's like I said, and like you said, we have a responsibility, because I just don't want that to happen. And that's why people need to learn more. And that's why this negative rhetoric could be so dangerous, because it can literally cost lives. So if you're out there and you're like, oh, I think I might be autistic, or I think I might be ADHD, and all you're reading is, well, that means you're a damaged human, you might as well go and not even bother.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, I felt like that when I first found out I was autistic, and I actually was happy at first, and then like people made me feel like, oh, this is the thing that's damaging you.
Yeah. I mean, I felt awful. I had a really poor period of my mental health where I did not want to be here. And finding out I was autistic was like, finally, I have some answers. And then as soon as I had some answers, the rhetoric in the world basically went, no, you were right. You were right. Everything's crap. Everything's wrong with you. And it made me feel like I didn't want to be here again. And it's a very, it's not an easy thing to talk about. But fortunately, when that door's open, it never truly closes. It's like you can't ever really unsee it. And it is frightening to think that I might have had the life experience I had in my 20s, felt as low as I felt, found out I'm autistic, and then just went straight back to it. Like, it is frightening to think that could have happened to me. It could have. And, luckily for the counselling and the work I've put in and the social circle and my core circle of support is so strong. I'm very, very fortunate. But I'm fortunate because I've built that. It's not happened overnight. I've had to let people in and trust them and trust myself and be vulnerable. And it's been a blessing, but it really does. Rehearing that story about the young man, it reminds me of the fine margins, the really fine margins of, you could get one autistic person who finds out their ND and it could be the best thing that's ever happened to them. But you take another person in the wrong environment with the wrong family support network or the wrong friends, and it could be a death sentence. And that terrifies me for my community.
And that's what really upsets me the most about these alleged charities and doctors. I just call them snake oil salesmen out there spreading this awful negative rhetoric. It's they don't care who it damages, as long as they make money from it, as long as they profit from it. They don't care. So I think it's down to us to care about ourselves and just look for that positive thing, because exactly like you were saying, like brilliantly said, finding out about autism, finding out about your neurodivergence should be something that frees you, should be something that educates you, should be something that comes into your life and enhances it and makes it better. And it will do if you listen to this podcast, if you listen to other neuro-affirming media and pages and books. Like, there's so many really great positive books out there, like Steve Silverman's book, which literally changed my entire view of autism. It was just so brilliant. Read Neurotribes, read my book, read all those neuro-affirming books out there, because that's what you need to find. Because if you find that you're just focusing on the negative, then, finding out that you're autistic could potentially be the most damaging thing. And it shouldn't be. I'm fresh out of spoons. Honestly, that was intense.
Yeah, we always do this, don't we? We go, we'll just have right, how are we feeling? We'll have a nice chill one.
Have a nice little chat.
And then it just goes off the deep end, don't we? We always do this.
But hey, as long as it helped people, and now I will just go back to bed.
Yeah, bless you. Right, have you got a quote of the week?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Right, let's hear it.
People who hit children are cowards and should be publicly flogged. And I'm volunteering.
Oh, all right then. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough.
I just think it's disgusting.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I agree. I can genuinely say, as I was never hit as a child, and I feel a lot better for it.
Yes, and I became incredibly aggressive and then hit other people. So
yes. Don't do that.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Pathetic.
Oh well, never mind.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us and listening, and I hope it's been a great help to people that are listening. I always feel better for having these sorts of conversations and being honest and sometimes being a bit vulnerable. So I appreciate it if you've stuck with us all the way through to the end. So I think that's it for this week, my friend. Thank you very much. Love you. Bye.
Bye.